Hi, remote art students. Today we are going to work on our ink pointillism drawing. So let's get started. Okay, here we are, and we're going to continue to work on our pointillism drawing, ink pointillism. And so what I recommend is if you have an ultra fine point Sharpie, this will work really good. This will work really good. But if you don't, you can use, this is like an ink pen. This is just like for signing checks. You might find it's black. You want to use black is what you want. So you might be able to find this around the house. And then don't forget, if you have nicer pens, you can get these microns. I recommend a 3 or a 5, probably a 5. And you can get these at you can get these at Hobby Lobby or Michael's. But you don't, these are a little more expensive. You can just get a ultra fine point Sharpie. You can get these anywhere, Target, anywhere. I didn't send them home, but maybe you have one at home. Maybe I sent one home. I don't know. I might have sent one home to you earlier in the year. Anyways, here we go. So now what we're going to do is we want to add the values to our drawing, but with dots. So if it's a real dark area, there's going to be a lot of dots. If it's kind of a darker but not super dark area, it's going to look like that. If it's like a medium, shade, it's going to be like that. And then if it's light, it's going to be like that. And then maybe if it's just a little bit, or if it's almost white, you might put a couple dots in there, right? And so I'm looking at, now you're looking at your object. You're going to draw your object, right? And I'm drawing mine. Mine is like this, it's like this little statue guy. He's like a bookend. And he's like a little, I don't know, he's like a little dragon dog from like a temple. So I'm kind of looking at him, and he's pretty dark. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start, let's see if I can put something underneath him to hold him up. Let's see, I got this eraser here. Let's see if this will work. Ooh, it will. Okay, good. So I'm going to look at him, but he's off camera, right? And what you want to do is, one thing you want to do is you're not going to draw the lines. You're going to do dots, like this. Ooh, please work, pen. So instead of like a line, you're going to use dots. Because everything's going to be dots. Everything's going to be dots. And then what you're going to do is you can blend shadows from those dots. So all your lines are going to be dots. So I'm going to start doing that. Ooh, takes a long time. It takes a long time. That's why so take your time and try to make them as neat as possible. Um, if you have a real thin marker, super thin marker, you could probably use that for your dots too. If they're a little bigger, it's okay. But you can see how long this is gonna take a long time, but it'll look really neat when it's done. And that's why we're only doing half a page, right? It's not a very big drawing because, oh boy, this would take a long time if it was a full page. Now, if you did a full page, that's okay. I mean, that's good. It just means you have to do a little extra work. But there's never anything wrong. There's never anything wrong with extra work. So you know what I'm going to do? Let's see. We have 3 weeks to do this, right? So this is our second week. And I'm just going to start doing my dots. I'm not going to finish him. Let's see. I'm going to do half of them. And then cuz I want to show you, let's see. I'm going to do these things. So you'll kind of be able to compare, but you definitely want to start with these dots, kind of tracing around your lines. Now, when you're all done, you can lightly, very lightly erase your dots. There's like an extra detail in here that I didn't draw. Okay. And then this kind of goes here. This ultrafine point Sharpie works really well, so I recommend it. If you don't have, you can say, hey mom, next time you go to Target, can you just pick up? But it's the ultrafine point. It's the it's not a regular Sharpie. A regular Sharpie's thicker. This one's a real thin one, but this one's real nice. And then your mom can keep it, or your dad can keep it when you're done with it. It's handy to have around the house. If you don't have one of these around the house, they're pretty handy to have for, you know, writing notes and things like that. Okay, and let's see. I'm gonna do all of his. Let's see. I'm gonna do this. Let's see. I guess I'm gonna do his mouth here. Woo! This takes a long time. Okay. And I'm going to start his mouth here. Oh. Make sure your dots are really close together. I'm getting kind of tired and my dots are getting, you can tell like at the beginning, my dots are really close together and now I'm getting tired of doing it. So my dots are getting further away. So make sure your dots are close together. You can always add dots if you have to. I think I just want to get on to the next part where I talk about where we're going to start doing some shading. Here's his tongue. And then here's his. Okay. And I think that's good enough for now. I'll come back so I'll come back and do this next time, right? Okay, so now it's the part where we have to start doing some shading. And so you want to look at your object, whatever you're drawing, and you look at what's really dark. Well, so like his ear up in here is dark, so I'm going to add a bunch of dots. And so basically it's going to be like a shading effect. So I'm going to add some dots. But then there's a technique that you can do when it gets lighter. So it's really dark along the edge here, so I'm going to add a lot more dots. But then as it gets lighter, it kind of, I don't use as many dots. So like, watch, I'm going to go real dark here. And then here, I'm not going to use as many dots. And then maybe here, not as many, right? And so it kind of creates a gradation. It's darker along the edge. In fact, I can add a couple more dots in here. So it looks really darker there. But then as I get further away from that, it gets less dots and it looks like it's lighter here, right? I can add a couple more in there. So that's kind of a nice technique, right? That's kind of tricky to do, but that's possible. Now let's see, up on this part of the ear, he's got some more dots. I'm going to add some dots up in here. But he's kind of got a white highlight here, so I'm not gonna put many dots. I'm gonna kind of leave a gap there. So that's where the highlight is. But then let's see. This is gonna be like this. My dragon dog, he's kind of dark, so I have to use kind of a lot of dots. So there, that's that part, right? Okay, so now I'm gonna go to his eyelid here. Now his eyelid has a highlight right here. So I'm gonna, like, here, watch, I'll show you. So right here, it's light. So I'm not gonna put very many dots there. So I'm gonna kind of skip that. I'm gonna go right underneath it and add a bunch of dots. So that's kind of like the highlight there. And then right along this edge, it's a little darker. So I'm gonna add more dots here. So remember, when it's darker, you use more dots. If it's white, you kind of don't do any dots, or you just do a couple. So watch, I'll show you. Let me add my dots. Okay. And then right here, it's darker. So you can take your time, you know, maybe listen to some music, but you have to look at your object, right, when you do it. And let's see if I can add some more dots here. There. So here you can kind of see there's a highlight there, right? Oh, there's a highlight right here. Now I could add a couple dots in there, like, dude, maybe like just a couple there. So it's not like perfectly white. But yeah, that's the highlight. That's the highlight right. Okay, so now I'm gonna go on to this part. Let's see. This part, it's the same thing. There's kind of like a line there. So I'm gonna kind of go like this. I'm gonna leave a white space there. And then this is gonna be so again, here you can see the highlight, right? And then underneath it is that gray value, the gray value that is created with these dots. Okay, so there it is. And then I'm going to do another one right here. So I'm leaving some white for my highlights. I got these kind of white lines. And so it creates the white highlight effect. Ooh, it's taking forever though. But once you get the hang of it, it's very relaxing and you will like the results. Like you can kind of just do dots all day and it's a kind of a slow process so that like you're less likely to totally mess up and it's kind of a nice effect. So let's see, I gotta do this. So I'm leaving, okay, there. So here you can see I left some spaces where there's a white, like a highlight, like the light shining down and it's hitting this part. So it's kind of like on his eyelid. So there's a little bit of a white there. And then there's like all these dots. That's kind of the gray or the, you know, the value. It's kind of like this one, right? Actually, it's almost a little, my dog is pretty dark. He's kind of dark. Now, what I can do is it's supposed to be a little darker on this edge, kind of like that one. So I'm going to add some more dots here so it gets a little darker. So it gets a little darker in here. So it's always easy to make things darker. It's hard to make things lighter again. So if you want to make something darker, you can always add more dots. You can always add more dots, but you can't make it lighter. So be careful when you're doing your dots. Make sure, like try not to go too dark right away, but then you can always add, see how right now I'm adding more dots here? I'm adding dots. And like I'm making this area darker. I can make this area a little darker. So it's easy to add. Dots to make it darker. So I guess that's the lesson. And it looks really good. Wow, look at that. That looks really cool, huh? Okay, so now I'm gonna do his eye. Now his eye is actually very dark. So let's see here. Now he has a highlight, so I'm gonna kind of like leave it open, kind of like that. And then I'm going to kind of do my dots normally, or maybe not too much, right? But I want to keep this area white because that's like the highlight. Okay. And then it's going to get darker in here, but I'm going to put this light, like I'm going to do these light dots first, and then I'm just going to go darker. So like I'm going to kind of lay down, it's kind of like a value. So this is like a medium value. This is like this one. I'm going to start with that, and then I'm going to add this once I'm all done. I just want to get this nice and neat for now. But you know what's nice is the dots kind of build up to that highlight, and it looks kind of nice. Okay, here we go. Ooh. Okay. Now this is me personally, but you might like the pure white. Like on these real thin highlights, I want to leave them white. But this is a big white area, so here's what I like to do. I like to, kind of like how I did down here, even though it's white, I like to add a couple dots in there. So I'm just going to go doot, doot, maybe on the edges. So it's kind of like, it's not super perfect white. It just helps it blend in with all the other dots. There's so many dots everywhere else. It's kind of weird that that would just be perfectly white. So I add a couple dots in there, but they're kind of along the edge. They're kind of along the edge in there, but you know, I leave it up to you. Okay, so now I have a medium value in my eye, but now I want this area to be darker. So, and because I'm looking at my dog, and this part of his eye is darker. So I'm going to make it darker. I'm going to add a lot. I'm going to add a lot more dots. Let's see here. Yep. Oh, it's taking forever. But the nice thing is by adding a little dots here and there, you can blend. It's a nice way to blend. And you have, once you, like I said, once you get the hang of it, you kind of have control. You're like, oh, I just want to add a couple more dots in there. But you can see how it's getting darker now. Oops, I got like a spot. There. Whew, this is taking forever. It looks good though. I like it. I like what I'm doing. I'm going to add a couple more dark spots in here. Okay, and then it really gets dark in here. I don't know how dark I want to get it. Let's see. Oh boy. I can always come back to it. Ooh. Okay, but there you can see it kind of looks like his eye. And then there's a little bit of a highlight here, so I'm going to leave this part a little white. So see, can you see what I'm doing? So it's kind of like a white. So it's kind of nice. It's like, let's see, that's kind of, so it's not too dark. So I'm going to kind of, okay. All right. So there you can see this kind of looks like a highlight now. I kind of built it up. So it's white there. Underneath his eye, right? I can make this a little, yeah. Okay, very good. Now let's see, I've got a highlight here. Let's see, this should be a little darker. Okay, then I got a highlight here, so I'm going to leave a little bit of white. So remember, I'm looking at my drawing. So yours is going to be different. So you have to kind of look to see where the lights and the darks are. And you're just going to add all your dots. There's a lot of dots, so don't just space out your dots like really far away. Now you don't have to use as many dots. The reason why I'm doing a lot of dots is because my dragon dog, he's pretty dark. But like, you know, like this, small dots, don't space them out super far, right? But you don't have to, if you don't have very many, if it's a light value, yeah, you're right, you don't have to do very many, but don't just go doot, 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 doot for your dots. No, that's, you know, that's probably not enough. And then remember, try not to do too many dots at first unless it's really dark. You can always add dots later. You kind of saw how I added dots later, like if I needed more. So you can do that. Whew! This takes forever. Okay, so now I've got this cheek thing. There's kind of like a highlight here. Ooh. Make his nose a little darker here. Okay. So this isn't as dark as that part. Let's see. Okay. So I'm going to make this a little darker. And then there's a... So again, I have a little highlight. It almost looks like he has a mustache here, but this is part of his lip. Okay. He's got this part. Okay, and then I'm going to go here. Ooh. Ooh. Wow. Okay, let's keep going. You can fast forward through all this if you just want to see the end, but because really what you need to do is, in fact, maybe I'll just stop. In his mouth, this is going to be really dark. So just let me get this really dark first. Let me get some darks and then we'll stop. But basically, you're going to look at your object. If there's a dark area, like inside his mouth is dark, so I'm going to use a lot of dots. And I might come back and add more dots even more later. But what you want to do is you want to finish at least, well, you don't have to do it half like this. You might like start up on top and do like half of it. You want to do half of your drawing, half of your dots, because next week we will do the other half. So just make sure you get at least half of your dots in, and then next week we'll finish it up. So we have one more week after this. It's a lot of work, so but it's kind of nice. Hopefully you'll enjoy it, and you can try different things in the future. You can be like, oh, I want to try a different. Doing the, oh boy, it's taking forever, this little dark area in his mouth. So I'm going to stop, and then I'll just, I'm going to do this later while I'm listening to music. But that's what we want to do. So if it's a light area, if it's not super dark, you don't use as many dots. If it's a dark area, really dark. And then like if there's if it's white, you can add a couple dots in there just to kind of show that it's not perfectly pure white. And that kind of helps blend it a little. That's kind of what I did here. My white, I just have a couple dots. Here's my light gray, medium gray, dark gray, and then almost a black. So if you have a black area, the dots are going to be super close together. Almost don't just color it in black, but your dots will be so close together, like kind of like his nostrils here. They're like almost black, but it's hard to see, but if I zoomed in super close, you'll see they're kind of dots. It's kind of hard to see. But that's it. So keep working on this. Get at least half of this done. Half of the dots done, and then next week we'll do the other half of the dots. But it takes a long time to do this art project, but it looks really neat. And hopefully, when you're finished, you'll be very pleased with your artwork. I looked at some of your shoe drawings, and they look great. And your cans, you guys are doing great. So keep it up. Keep up the good work. And so we'll finish this next week. Have a great week, and I'll talk to you later. Okay? Bye.